Hi, this is Matt McClung, and I'm talking about the 3-drum Etude number 4. I actually play it on 3 drums. If it makes your life easier, go ahead and play it on 4. I tried to find a way to simplify my life by doing this thing on 4 drums, and I couldn't really find one. I think it's fairly simple on 3, and an extra drum would just confuse me. But if that's not the case and it makes your life easier, go for it. It's absolutely acceptable to play this etude on 4 drums. I would practice this etude, I did practice this etude in different sections with a metronome. It's tricky because the tempo keeps changing. There's the opening tempo of 56, and as soon as you establish that, you start the accelerando. Then there's the tempo of 92, and you play that for a while, and then you change it to 108. So I practiced in discrete sections, so I got comfortable knowing exactly where 92 was, exactly where 108 was, and more or less where 56 was, although it doesn't last very long before you chuck it out the window and speed up on to 92. But I would definitely encourage you to practice in sections with a metronome. I'm probably not the first person to suggest that you practice with a metronome. Do it. It puts you ahead of the game. It makes you better than the people around you. In the published errata and notes on the piece that are on the website, it suggests that you play this through on a keyboard instrument or on a piano in order to be able to hear the pitches, because there are lots of tuning changes. I wholeheartedly endorse that practice. I think that's a great idea, and it gets the pitches in your ear. If you can hear the piece on the bottom end of a marimba, or if you can hear it on a piano, that's going to go a long way towards you successfully making those tuning changes. The 3 drums I use are the lowest drum, basically the 32, 29, or 26. Your drums might be slightly off from those sizes, but the lowest 3 drums. In order to do that, you need to be able to get a B flat and an F. The bottom note you'll need on the lowest drum is an F. And it'll need to get a nice F, and then it'll need to go up to a B flat. If you can get those 2 notes out of your lowest drum, then you should be okay to play the whole thing on 3 drums and put everything you need on the 32. The ranges of the other 2 drums are pretty small. The 29 just goes from a C natural to a D natural, and on the 26 I go from an E flat to an F. If you have a 26 that doesn't go that high, that sounds too strained at an F, you can use a 23. For me, a 23 sounds a little tubby with an E flat. The bottom of the range you need is an E flat, and to me that's a little low for the 23. So I put all those higher pitches on the 26-inch drum, and I don't even use the smallest drum in a standard set of 4. And I encourage you to do that. But if for some reason you have a wonky 26 that doesn't sound very good on an F, you can try just getting rid of this drum, move it out of the way completely, and put the smallest drum in its place and play on those 3 drums. And I think that'll work just fine. Maybe the trickiest part with the tuning is the section with the 2 glisses, which the first one is measure 36, and then the second one is measure 39. Measure 36, I do the entire gliss on the low drum. And as long as your first pitch is good and your last pitch is good, and you have a slow, smooth motion with the pedal, you should be pretty much okay. I wouldn't worry too much about trying to work through every single pitch on the way down. Just make a smooth motion and it'll come out okay. It won't matter too much, because as soon as you hit the pitch, it's going to go away and the pitch is going to bend and you're going to hit the next lowest pitch. So if it's not quite perfect on each one, it's forgivable. It's not particularly noticeable. So just get a smooth motion, and as long as you start it in the right place and end it in the right place, your gliss should be fine. The other gliss is in measure 39, and I do that over 2 drums. So I start the gliss on the high F on the 26, and I go down to the E flat. And the next pitch I play is the D natural, which I already have on the 29, and then I gliss that through the D flat C sharp. I think it's written as D flat, and then on down to the C. So that's a gliss that's a little tricky because it happens over 2 drums. But your starting pitch is already there with the F. You bring it down to an E flat, and the next pitch is already there with the D. So just to make sure you know, the first 3 notes 1, 2, and are played on the 26. And then the fourth and fifth notes in the measure, the and of 3 and beat 4 are played on the 29. And that should get you through. Go slowly. Watch my video. I have a video of the piece being performed slowly, and if you watch carefully, all that should be pretty clear. There are 4-stroke roughs in this piece. They happen in measures 40, 41, and 42. And 4-stroke roughs on timpani are different than 4-stroke roughs on snare drum. They are always alternated, and they are slower than you would have on a snare drum. On a snare drum, they're pretty quick and they're right up against the note. You take a little bit more time when you're playing on timpani. The drum head is bigger and it takes a little bit more time to speak, so each individual note needs a little bit more space. You'll hear it in the performance, but certainly don't do a right, left, left, right sticking or a normal snare drum sticking for the rough. You want to do alternated. I do left, right on each of those 4-stroke roughs. So make sure you understand the difference between those on timpani and 4-stroke roughs on snare drum. For the stickings of this piece, just like the 2-mallet marimba piece, you want to decide on an intelligent sticking strategy, stick to it, ha ha ha, ha, and write it in. It'll make your life easier. You won't have to remember it. Just write them down and you'll always play it the same way. Ideally, you would alternate everything. This is true on marimba, but especially true on timpani. You want to alternate as much as possible. This etude is very difficult to alternate all the way through. They do some things here that make it essentially impossible to do. One of those places is measure 38. You have, in rapid succession, you have 16th notes, 2 up here, 1 down here, another 2 up here, another 1 down here. So if you were to alternate, it would look like this and would feel ridiculous. So certainly in that instance and some other places in the quarter note equals 92 section, you can go ahead and double. General rule is alternate when you can, but double when you have to. One unusual thing I do with the stickings, this happens in measure 46, and you might look at doing this at other places, maybe not necessarily in this piece, but in other pieces you might play. This isn't the first thing that might come to mind, but I start with my sticks crossed. I start the lick, I have plenty of time to get ready because I have a measure of rest, and I start the lick like this. And the reason is, once I get going, it's very easy to play like this. So you might not think to start with your hands crossed, but in this particular instance, at least for me, it makes my life a lot easier. It means I can alternate those 2 measures without any trouble, and it feels better than doing it the other way. My right hand is making a lot of the big motions and my left hand stays still. I'm right-handed and that's more comfortable for me. So when you're trying to solve all the interesting problems of sticking in this piece, that's one option that you might look at, is starting with your hands crossed. It might make things easier. I do some muting in this piece. For the rests in measures 9 through 12, I try to mute the last 2 drums that I played. So for instance, in measure 9, on the 2nd 8th note of the measure, I mute the E flat and the A flat because those are the last 2 pitches that I played. And that's a good rule for you to figure out how to choreograph all these muted notes. I do try to mute all 3 drums in measure 11 because all 3 drums get played in rapid succession, after which there's a rest. So I mute the most recently played drums, which are the E flat and D flat, and then I also mute the A flat. But if you don't want to and you like it, you can leave the mutes out in measures 9 through 12. I think that's okay. For me, it sounds cleaner muted, but if you want to not dampen the drums in that section, I think it's okay. For this piece, I like to use the Genis line of timpani mallets. These are the Gen 7 articulate model. I think they work nicely. There's some other models of Genis that would work pretty well. You want something articulate, but that still sounds good with a roll, because you do have a couple of rolls in this piece. I also like the American Custom T3 Staccato. It's another option. I think it's a little bit more, shall we say, reasonably priced, But I think the best option for me, I tried pretty much all of the Vic Firth mallets, and I went with the Genis number 7s. So I encourage you to try those out. Have fun and good luck.